All right, so we're kicking off this edition of the SportsMax Zone with football. Trinidad and Tobago ended their CONCACAF Nations League with a resounding 3-1 win against Cuba in Tobago on Monday night, securing their first win of the campaign. Dante Gilbert and Jobin Jones gave the Soca Warriors a 2-0 lead at halftime before Yasnia Matos halved the lead in the 62nd minute. However, a 65th minute strike by Rel Gill gave the men in red all 3 points, ensuring a fourth place finish in Group B. Well, the win also meant that Trinidad and Tobago will maintain their place in League A of the competition, a feat which caretaker head coach Derek King said he was proud of.
I think, it's a great feeling for us to maintain, at the A level. What we saw today, especially at first half, we saw a team that was hungry, a team that really wanted the 3 points, We went out there and we played some good football. I think first half alone, it could have been about at least 5. We could have been about 5 up. But so is football, goals win matches. And I think, we scored 2 goals in the first half.
Well, joining us to break down what was a great win for his and my home nation, football analyst Brent Sancho. Good afternoon, Brent. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you, Mara. Good afternoon to everyone. And of course, as you mentioned, it's a very good victory for Trinidad and Tobago. I think for a lot of Trinidadian fans, it's been a while that they've been able to celebrate a victory that not only came as a result, but also with some encouraging football.
Yeah, you say encouraging football, and I just want to spend some time talking to you about the importance of this win for the Soca Warriors, Brent, and the importance of this win for caretaker coach Derek King, who has been tasked with a big job.
Yeah, I think it's an important victory, and you have to put everything into context. Trinidad and Tobago has dropped off significantly as it relates to our standards and what we've been able to contribute to the CONCACAF. We've really struggled. I thought Coach Angus Eve did a good job in getting us back into some sort of resemblance, but still very far off from what we know Trinidad to be, the dominant team in the Caribbean. This win against Cuba, who, albeit, of course, were not at their best, it certainly is not the best Cuban team I've seen. But that's insignificant to the point that the fact that Trinidad and Tobago was able to string passes together, play some sort of football that looked like it was patented. It looked like there was some sort of directive as how they wanted to play. At the end of the day, yes, it wasn't a perfect result. It certainly doesn't say to me, Mariah, that, I'm going to go and run out and celebrate the fact that we may be qualifying for a World Cup, because there's still a lot of work to be done. But you have to take these things in small dosages. And for Derek King being the interim coach, with one win, 1 loss, and 2 draws, I think he'll be quite happy with what he's been able to do so far.
Yeah, and the youngster, Dante Gilbert, he's been very exciting this season. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that player.
Yeah, he's an exciting player. Came through the SSFL ranks, now playing in Holland. We've seen the development from his days in Presentation College in Trinidad to his club in PSV in Holland. You see the confidence, you see the strength in his running, his positivity, his match awareness. All those things are good, but he's still a very, very young boy. And we've seen, of course, he struggled a bit in Honduras, but it's good to see him come back from that, because all of this is about learning, isn't it, really? Because he is a young player and he won't be consistently good. But what he did in Tobago shows that he has genuine quality and can be a genuine contributor to Trinidad and Tobago. I would also like to tag on Nathaniel James as well to that, because that youngster did very well up front. His movement was good and his ability. And of course, when young Gill came on, he did well as well. So I think the youngsters that played their part certainly shown a glimpse of what Trinidad and Tobago football can be in the future.
Yeah, and Brent, I don't know where you stand on this, right? But being here in Jamaica and, being around the Jamaica Reggae Boys team very closely, doing those interviews and everything because of where I'm based, it had me thinking, right? Because Jamaica bringing in Steve McLaren, a coach that is from England. I mean, we know what his resume says. It speaks for itself. But one of the things the JFF considered when bringing in Steve McLaren is the fact that, he can scout those players with Jamaican heritage and come back into the setup and, integrate them, and it would be an easy process. Where do you stand on, us getting a coach as well? Well, let's just say finances permit, that are able to find the Trini players, that are international and can come into our setup and add to it? Or are you more for just building from our grassroots program, waiting for a couple of years for these players to shine through? Or are you okay with the mix and everything like that?
It's a good topic, Mariah. At the end of the day, what we've seen throughout the Caribbean is a lot of our nations are looking at their diaspora. I'm here in St. Lucia, as you know, Curacao, St. Martin. We need, you're talking about 10, 11 plus players that are coming in from their diaspora and have contributed significantly. I looked at a St. Martin team last night that I think if they played anyone in the Caribbean, they'll give them a run for their money. And this is a very, very tiny nation we're talking about, but they have the capabilities to draw talent from outside. I have absolutely no problem with that as it relates to Trinidad and Tobago. And if you want to get a coach out, of course, of a foreign ilk who can help and assist in that, you first have to identify that that is the route that you want to take. Trinidad has dipped their toes in it. Remember, of course, Chris Burchell in my time in 2006, who played a part. Since then, we've kind of dabbled in it, but we've not really gone out there aggressively as it may be the case in Jamaica, where they have an aggressive program to recruit players from the diaspora. So I think it's not just going out and getting a high-profile coach, but also as a program identifying that you want to go down that route, because it would mean that you would have to have that relationship with the immigration officers in Trinidad, of course, the government of Trinidad and Tobago as it relates to the law of grandparentage, citizenship, and all those things have to fall into place. It's not just one coach that can do it. It needs, I think, a domino effect of activities to make sure that those sorts of things happen. And only then can you start having these sorts of conversations. The problem, Mariah, that Trinidad and Tobago have is that they are running out of time, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and Brent, as you say, running out of time, that's where I want to go now, because the last FIFA World Ranking showed Trinidad and Tobago outside of the top 100, 101 in fact, which is an unfamiliar position for Trinidad and Tobago historically, although you have been, just outside the top 100 now for several years. A new president of the TTFA and World Cup qualifying starting in earnest next year. How realistic is it for TNT football fans to feel that the turnaround can start happening quickly enough to have TNT in the conversation for a World Cup qualifying spot?
I think, Lance, the conversation about turnaround is a very, very simple discussion. And it's simply based on what I just mentioned. If Trinidad and Tobago decides to use the diaspora route, they will have a chance. There are kids out there that can represent Trinidad and Tobago, similar like Jamaica, maybe not the same amount of players, but they do have a cadre of players out there that can change this program right away. But it's not just about the FA does play a part in it, but it also the government of Trinidad and Tobago, because as you know, the law does not stand here in Trinidad and Tobago, although we have had and heard of situation where athletes in other sport have gotten passport. We do have Cardenas from Crystal Palace who got his passport to play for Trinidad and Tobago through the grandparent world. But the fact that it has to be a joint effort, and that's the point I make it. In Jamaica, in Grenada, in St. Lucia, and all these other islands, it's a joint effort. It's a collaboration between the ministries that is under those umbrellas, between the FAs, and there's some funding that's put towards it. And until that happens, then the conversation is mute. I think as is, and to probably get more direct to your question, as is, I think Trinidad and Tobago will struggle. The current pool and crop that we have, all due respect to all of those kids in that play there, I don't think it's enough to get us to a World Cup. It would need an influx and it would need some support from players from the diaspora.
Yeah, and as you talk about that, Brent, is there anything that you can say directly about the coaching platform for TNT at the moment? Because I know Derek King has been listed as an interim coach. Is he?
Yeah, he's listed as an interim coach. I think the expectation as to who they hire,
Yes.
he would be the assistant coach. And from all accounts, Lance, it seems that the FA is looking at a foreign coach that has the pedigree to attract foreign players, attract commercial support, and attract, of course, a different sort of football with the help from the different coaches that will come in. That seems to be the conversation that is being held in Trinidad and Tobago. Whether or not they get the candidate, of course, Dwight York is heavily rumored to possibly take up the post. Of course, it would need the support for Dwight. And before even examining Dwight's credentials as a coach, he would need support. And it goes to anybody, whether we bring in Pep Guardiola or whoever it may be, the support will be needed. And I think that's the bigger question, whether or not that support will come.
Yeah, and I think that's what Mariah was asking earlier on as well. And is there a timeline on that? Because the international program now demands that TNT would have to get ready in time to make a bold effort for World Cup qualifying next year. So is there a timeline on these developments?
I think it needs to happen soon. I must admit, Lance, I'm a bit surprised it didn't happen for this October window against Cuba. But the FA did not make the decision. That might be a variant situation that may have had their hands tied financially. Certainly would be one of those issues. But I think when you talk about timelines, the next World Cup qualifiers are in June for Trinidad and Tobago. They have a March window where they have to play these preliminaries. Any coach that they're bringing in here with the hope of qualifying for both the Gold Cup and the World Cup would have to start before this year is out. So the reason why I said the time is running because negotiations does take a bit. And we are in October. And I think anyone that's coming in here would have to come into that seat by the end of November.
Yeah, I have two more questions for you quickly before we go. Brent, the first one is tough. The second one may not be that tough. Do you support Dwight York being appointed as the TNT coach?
Look, at the end of the day, I think Dwight York has served this country well. When you look at someone that may have a good idea as to our players and what the country and the culture is, he would know. He would certainly need support right around him to do this job. And, I'll be happy for him if he does get the job. And look, at the end of the day, I want to see the best candidate. Of course, Dwight is a teammate of mine, but this is World Cup qualifiers, and I want to see the best man for the job. And if he is the best man after all the different sifting throughs of resumes, then so be it.
Yeah, and you just referenced a couple of minutes ago being in St. Lucia there, Brent, so you'd have seen St. Martin's 4-0 win over the St. Lucians last night, which was a shocking result. St. Lucia undefeated going into that game and losing badly by 4-0. What went wrong for the home team?
Well, it's international football at its best, really, Lance. 4 mistakes, 4 goals. And it's a game where St. Lucia had 62% of possession and dominated possession, but they just didn't have the cutting edge. And of course, you can argue that they have a ton of injuries. But when you look at the resumes of the players from St. Martin, then you start to realize why you got that kind of result. They were clinical. They were very good on the ball. There's a lot of quality in that St. Martin team. And I may argue if they do take that group of players into the next fixtures in November, I think both Curacao and Grenada will have to be very wary of them.
Yeah, well, Brent, thank you so much. Enjoy St. Lucia. That's my place, and I'm very jealous right now.
So I certainly will enjoy it for you.
Brent Sancho there, of course, taking the time to analyze what went correct, what went well for the Trinidad and Tobago Soca Warriors yesterday against Cuba. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to continue that discussion on what took place in the other matches.